Assalamualaikum, bertemu sekali lagi dalam Borak Bantai bersama dengan host anda, Syahid Rushdan. Hari ini kita akan bersama dengan tetamu yang agak istimewa. Istimewa sebab beliau juga adalah merupakan saya punya klien. Buat mereka yang mengenali Hisham Saleh, kemungkinan ramai yang mengenali beliau sebagai seorang marketing manager untuk Noodle. Dan yang mungkin ramai tak tahu juga adalah beliau merupakan seorang film writer ataupun mungkin branded content writer untuk kebanyakannya big companies such as Malaysia Airlines, TMB. Dan yang paling terbaru yang aku percaya ramai yang pernah tengok, iklan raya pada tahun lepas untuk Plus yang bertajuk Tumpang. Jadi tanpa membuang masa, kita bersama dengan Hisham Saleh.
I think most of the time I would think I'm a brand storyteller lah. Brand storyteller. Kalau orang panggil, oh kau ni scriptwriter ke, kau ni film director ke, kau ni writer ke, aku most of the time I think I would prefer to recognize as brand storyteller because aku started as someone from marketing kan, someone from who work on the brand, someone who work very closely with the brand, not as agency. Sebab aku memang daripada client base. So it started as a client base. So what happened is most of the time you got to understand what's the problem of the brand, and then from that then you write the problem. You understand the problem, you write the solution in terms of that. And then aku pun most of the time memang asal graduate computer science, programming. So kalau orang macam mana kau boleh jadi writer or something like that. So I started as graduate as computer science. So aku belajar itu Java, C++ or something like that. But then coding kalau system coding semua tu. But then when you do programming, you also have to write a story. Because why? When you want to run a program, you want to write a program, like say you want to make action like, oh, I want to pick up a cup of a cup of tea or something like that. So you have to write a programming that like say your hand has to come down and then recognize this is a cup and then pick up. So in the programming you have to write that coding in terms of that. So in a way it's actually writing an action. You're writing a computer language of an action or something like that. Then when I work with a brand, you find a solution. So example, a solution is actually like say I want to sell a product or something like that. I want to sell a product. So then you think of the solution and then you write an action. From that action, then you have to think how you want to tell a story, how to resolve. So that's how it started lah. So I started as someone who are doing more programming, but lucky enough because when I start writing stories back in what year is that? 1994. That was the first time I write a story. 1994, something like that. But I write, short story, Japan books, and then I wrote my first novel was in 1995.
So macam mana your study in CS, computer science kan? Boleh trigger you to get involved in writing?
No, I started as a writing first. So I started writing, a normal writer, something like normally writer. So but although I'm writing in Malay and all that, but my graduate, because I'm aliran science, something like that. So I goes into computer science. Then the writing, it become a structured writing. You understand? A structured writing, it mean like a proper, like normally when you write a chapter, you just write a story. Goes along the way. There is no arc to it, like say beginning and end and something like that. But when you learn computer science, that's when I start learning like you have to have a problem, learning how do you resolve, and then how that's at the end in terms of like finding the solution to come out, something like that. When I did a computer science, after a while, you being a creative and then all that thinker and then all that, and then come the opportunity where you had a brand and then you say, oh, you have to do ads or something like that. Then I realized that I can use my writing skill for the sake of an ad, something like that. So that's how it started, something like that. But funny enough is actually I thought that at first, like a lot of people lah, dia macam, oh, kau boleh buat ke, tak boleh buat. Like you really have to go to schools of writing, or you have to go to film, something like that. I think back then there's not a lot of training. The only thing that people goes for, writing or involved ni, oh, you have to go to your ITM, corporate, I think communication, something like that. So you have film study or something like that. So that's the only thing that people see, but you don't realize it's actually that talent of writing can come from anyone. Story,
From
any line, something like that.
Surprisingly sebenarnya computer science tak pernah tahu. So kalau those yang biasanya kita dengar engineering ada juga, tapi to get involved in writing is agak rare. Sebab mostly yang luar daripada bidang yang kita belajar, mostly on technical.
Technical.
Technical is macam ramai lah yang boleh, tapi on writing macam for me personally, I think kena ada macam specific course tau. To implement that skill lah. But you prove
It's
totally contra.
It's actually I would say like this: if you have guts to do it, you just have to do it, something like that. But sometimes it's actually reading lah. In writing, it's actually the most important is you got to read a lot. You got to read a lot. You got to watch movie a lot. You got to, and then when you watch movie, never just watch movie. You watch movie, and then in your brain is actually writing that story. So examples like if you see in a movie a scene or something like that, someone pick up something like that, you write your script in that, in the head, something like that. So that's how most of the time that I'm implement it lah, in terms of the way that I'm writing. So you visualize things and then all that.
Same goes to us. Kalau technical team memang obviously akan tengok lighting,
Something like that.
So Hisham dia memang boleh interpret from the scene itself to writing punya style.
Writing
so
punya
is
style.
there anyone yang kau jadikan sebagai not to say ideal, tapi memang macam benchmark, or not to say benchmark lah, but someone that you look up to?
This is
locally
ke international. This is very, very interesting. I have no specific person that like I look up to, like say, oh, I want to do Wes Anderson, or I want to do Steven Spielberg, or I want to do. I know I watch every single thing. I watch from any director. There's no specific like say, oh, I just want to do Christopher Nolan, or I just want to do M. Night Shyamalan or something like that. I would think like this. Good story can come from anyone, not just a specific person or something like that. So sometimes it's like I watch Nancy Meyers. You understand? No? Nancy Meyers, Nancy Meyers is, for me, it was like she's a good storyteller in those romantic comedies, something like that. But when you watch it, you know that it was written by her, something like that. It was written because the story, the flow, the way that the story flow, you understand that signature. They have everyone would have a signature style of writing in terms of that. I don't know. A lot of people was like, why do you have you don't have specific? So for me, it's actually you can have a mentor. You can have a mentor if you just started, but you should not limit yourself just on specific mentor that when you want to writing. You got to have your own way of writing in terms of what does the way the story flow, in terms of that, how do you do it? Because once you find your own style or signature, that is how your brain work. I would say it's how does you writing, because some people, I realize like some directors, something like that, they wanted to be that and then they changed the style to different. I think you got to have your own signatures. So I have not. I mean, I love I love M. Night Shyamalan. I love M. Night Shyamalan. I love is Tony Scott. The suspense that he create, something like that. Tony Scott. So Tony Scott had a bit of imagination story, something like that. So I do like Tony Scott. I love Nancy Meyers. Definitely, I love Nancy Meyers for romantic comedy.
Romantic.
Yeah. Okay. in terms of I don't mentor a person. I love loss.
Okay.
I think I love love. I love Carlton Curls. I love Damon Lindelof. Damon Lindelof, I think so. I can't remember pronounce his name. But the way that they write, they challenge the typical story that you have done it before. You know, in terms of like the way that they want to convey specific message, sometimes it's a bit too early from the time when the film or the drama come out, something like that. But I definitely love Lost. That's my favorite show of all time.
Belum sempat lah sampai lost.
I would a lot of people would lost with the Lost, but I'm a number where I would really like watch it one episode 3-4 times just to understand the story.
Okay.
So that is for me how I love. That time I wasn't writing yet. That time I wasn't fully writing a film or a brand or anything. I was just watching it, but I would admire their story lah. In terms of that.
So you jadikan most of the series ataupun films as your
I think that's my reference mentor, something like that. Yeah. Because then you understand what kind of story that you comfortable to write. So I try love story. I can't write love story. I tried so many times to write a short story about love story. It just does not work. It's just like it just fall flat altogether. Even you experience the love story, something like that. But when you write, it does not work. But when you work with a brand, it's slightly different. When you work with a brand, one of the thing that you got to important, right? When you're writing as a brand, I mean, I'm more a brand person, something like that. You've got to know what's the problem with the brand because of that. I think the biggest challenge with anything that when you're writing for a brand is actually you write based on sendiri. Something like that. You cannot write that. So if you're doing it personal fashion, yes, go ahead with sendiri. But when you're writing for a brand, you have a purpose that you need to do in terms of that. So you've got to understand what's the problem with the brand, and then you're writing a solution for the brand based on the objective they want to achieve. Sometimes it's actually you've got to limit yourself. Sometimes you can go wild in terms of that, but at the end of the day, it's about achieving the objective that the brand needs in terms of that. Yeah. So I think that is a lot of I would say, I'm not saying locally or internationally or something like that. That what I see a lot of storyteller or writers or anything, they cannot. They're really good in writing personal story, personal passion pictures. Go with the films or will go with the drama. But then when they write for drama, for the brand or something like that, they lost because why? Because they don't have objective of to solve the problem in terms of that. So that's different thing. Like if you come, if you like, oh, I'm writing, thinking to write film, something like that. You've got to understand where that's your position in terms of that. So if you are writing for a brand, so you have a purpose in terms of that. Even similarly, when you write a film, sometimes you see like it's beautifully written, but it goes. I have seen many, but I'm not a type that go out would comment something like that. This is the first time I would do this. Like people will just write a beautiful story, but there's no ending. Ending is me. You create ending. It's like you just. It's not say open-ended story. It just it stay there from 1A, and then at the end it's become A also. There is no destination for you to resolve. So if examples like as a brand or something like that, if you say that your brand wanted to deliver from A to F, so you just deliver A to F. You don't go until Z in terms of that. Like a lot of people would just do based on what they do. Oh, I just want to go until Z, something like that. But sometimes it isn't. So it's similarly when you do writing for stories. That's what a lot of people tell me like, do you go watch local movie or something like that? I very rarely watch local movie because I realize that not say they are bad or something like that. You go, you want to support, the local industry. But sometimes it goes all over the place, like again and again. But I mean, everybody is improving, so hopefully soon there will be a lot more people who dare enough to writing. Yeah.
So what macam orang kata langkah pertama bila attach dengan klien,
Mm-hmm.
you want to deliver you want to sell the brand.
Mm-hmm.
But apa orang kata dia punya, what are the elements, the important elements that you as a writer try to tackle your client?
Okay.
Any angle?
Okay, so based on recent project, I would base on recent project like before, like examples like with Plus, right?
Yes.
With the Plus, right? So the purpose is actually like examples like the brand, what's the the brand problem in terms of that. Like say like it's not there, nobody knows, something like that. So Plus have done a lot of things, like to the market, like they do a lot of safety and something like that. But to specific audience, it's like Plus is just a tour company. They're collecting money from people or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So perception people is different than what the brand want to deliver in terms of what the brand will do, something like that. So when you got anything, it's actually you need to tell us the real story, not the perception of people. So the first thing is actually is what you got to do in writing is actually to change the perception of the people. So there is a few ways. Is it a myth or is it a fact? Something like that. So you have to identify. So usually I would always have that before I write it. Is it a myth or a fact? The perception, the problem that you are facing, something like that. So it's similarly when you're writing something like that, what's the myth behind it? What's the fact? So the idea is you got to tell the fact to debunk the myth. So that's how quite big lah, something like that. So what we wanted to do, so right now is people think Plus is taking the money, something like that, right? So I give that examples, and then Plus, Plus do a lot of things from that money they get. Like they do safety, they make sure the road, something like that. So, but these people, general, we don't feel grateful about it, something like that. So when I do a Chinese New Year campaign, a story, something like that, so I go like, if people are ungrateful, what does normal people would do? Give a buah tangan, something like that. So that's how buah tangan came about. So the idea is actually, buah tangan is actually you about exchanging two hands. You understand? Not like I'm giving you money, you give me something. So that is buah tangan. So then from that, you got one specific thing, specific topic or specific objective that you have in terms of that. So then from there, you want to deliver to something like that. So it's similarly when you write a story. So I always say this, what's your plot point? I always say to you, right? Like when you're writing, what's the plot point? So when you're writing a story about something like that, you can write so many things, cups, something like that. If not, the story will just a story like normal. But you need to create a plot point. So it's actually, if like examples like, if I holding a cup here, the story is I'm holding a cup here, and then I drop it, I smash it the wall. Why does I smash it to the wall? So then you have to tell the audience why does it happen, something like that. So that is plot point in terms of that. So it's similarly as a brand, also similar when you're writing that. What a lot of time we fail as me as a writer. I'm not sure it's true. I'm not really that expert, but it's actually we lost the plot point. So we just tell a story until the end, and then at the end we did not even handle those plot points. We didn't answer even the plot point. Why? That's the reason in terms of that. So there's many ways for you to write. There is many ways for you to do. You can do Nancy Meyer style. You can do Christopher Nolan style, or you can do M. Night Shyamalan. But at the end of the day, it's about specific story that you want to tell. So example, M. Night Shyamalan. So he wanted to show who is actually shoot Bruce Willis, something like that. At the end, we know, right?
As a writer for almost, I would say, more than 10 years, Definitely lah.
Definitely.
Ada tak any, obviously mesti ada ups and downs.
Okay.
And what are the struggles that you had before and how you overcome that?
I think when I started young, something like that. When I started young, writing. First I writing in Malay. I write in Malay. Like pure Malay.
Japan lah.
Japan, something like that. So you tell a story. And then I think the biggest, not say kejatuhan lah, kat sini kau tulis zaman kejatuhan kan, something like that. I mean the step back lah. I mean there's a lot of people step back. So what I realized is my step back was I don't know how to write in English. I'm not an English writer, something like that. I failed my English even in SPM.
This was during your early years.
Earlier years, something like that. So then I take a break for almost 10 years lah, not writing. Something like that. So I write in Malay. So but you write, I used to write very very like a lot of people say Ahmad Sahid style of writing, very berbunga or something like that. But then when I realized that I write that, I want to write more because I read a lot of English books. I love Charles Dickens, something like that. So when they write a story in English, it's very, very much details in terms of like how the character develops, in terms of that. So I think step back was for me was when I thought that, because I don't know English, I don't know how to write, so I stopped writing, something like that. But then after a while, I realized that you write in any language, like language yang tak faham ke, bahasa Kelantan ke, bahasa apa ke, you still writing a story, something like that. Even if you writing in computer programming or something like that, like else, what if or something like that, you still writing a story in terms of that. So that is when I realized, when was that? I think I remember I wrote the first. I think I wrote Rokia. I wrote the first screenplay in 2000. I started in 2015 as one pager.
Okay.
In English.
From
From that, and I give it to some a copywriter lah, or someone who have done screenplay before or something like that. And then she's like, I don't know your story. Your English is all over the place or something like that. And then it challenged me like crazy. I was like, bitch, you should not say this to me.
The way dia cakap tu memang
but she's do it, not she's evil to me or something like that. She's challenging me.
Yes.
You understand?
In a way.
In a way, she said that and then she said that why not you write in Malay? I said that I don't want to write a screenplay in Malay because I want to be sure that I can write something which is everybody can understand. If I want to send to international, I want to write. So that's how it started. So I write that first screenplay. And then came Malaysia Airlines, the work at Malaysia Airlines. So I wrote short story. I wrote in English a little bit, but then, like production house, everything, we all don't bother English, right? Something like that. But to send to your boss, you have to write a proper English, something like that. So that's how it started, right? But for me, that was, don't stop writing, even though you cannot write, something like that.
No matter what language.
No matter what language, no matter if you understand the story, if you can write, then slowly you develop the story, because at the end of the day is you need the story can come from anything. Story can come from, you can write any story. Don't limit yourself. I just love writing. That's all. So most important is actually always good niat. If you do, intention is got to be, you write because you want to solve a problem of a brand or something like that.
Okay.
You're not doing it because, money. Everyone want money. Everyone want compensation, something like that. You have to compensate people,
Yes.
something like that, and then priority. But in terms of priority, you don't just do it because you want that specific project or something like that. Work with me, right? Even though sometimes it's a good idea, I just don't agree with it. Something like that is you got to understand client problem. So sometimes client is human also. So a lot of time in terms of business strategy, we tell like, client tipu je lah, like do like this, I'm being client, being agency and then being client all over. Sometimes I do freelance or something like that. The first thing is niat, the most important. It's rezeki, it's most important. It's most important is actually you want to solve that brand or that by your writing. That is most important. Yeah.
So is that yelah memandangkan dah berpengalaman
Okay.
bertahun-tahun dalam agensi, bukan setakat agensi, pernah juga jadi klien, pernah jadi agensi, pernah jadi production pun pernah juga. So, by any chance kalau you ada any advice yang you nak share to newcomer yang maybe nak get involved in writing?
I think most important is actually like this. Tak kisahlah you a photographer ke, you kerja apa orang cakap tolak kat belakang tu,
Tolak troli tu
tolak troli aku pun tak ingat dah the term tu, right? Something like that. So even that, if you have a story to tell, go ahead and write it, even a short, something like that. Story can be easy, like 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, stuff. The most important is actually what story that you want to tell. Something like that. What's the objective behind it that you writing it in terms of that. Don't afraid of like, aku tak pandai lah tulis, bahasa aku tak apa-apa, something like that. Dah doubt. Never doubt yourself. Never doubt yourself. I mean, I have been all kind of stuff from programming, from programming to graphic design, from web design, from storytelling, from creating an ads. Sometimes do your own marketing like photo, FB ads or something like that. Never doubt yourself that you can not do it or something like that. So in writing is similarly, try out and write. But I always say this: you got to read. It's actually for all my piece of weather, never stop reading.
That's how you
Self-talk. Yeah. So I mean, I do a lot.
skill.
I do a lot of reading. Something like that. I do a lot of reading. Sometimes, like when you writing, you write like biasalah, saya jalan ke pasar, something like that. So, saya jalan ke pasar petang ini. So you can even change petang ini saya jalan ke pasar.
Okay.
Something like that. So it has a different tonation already in terms of that. But that, how I learn is actually from reading, from someone who read it. So you have different style of writing, something like that.
But still delivering the same
So
message.
it's delivering the same message in terms of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think lenggok bahasa. No, I mean the way that storyteller, penglipulara, right? So penglipulara ni dia boleh create macam-macam story daripada cup. Even when you see a cup, so if you have story a cup, so cup ni dari mana? Kau dapat daripada Nescafe, mungkin kau beli daripada Giant kot, kau beli daripada mana? Kau dapat free kan? So that is a story. Kau beli daripada Giant minggu lepas. Duit daripada mana kau dapat ni? Something like that. That how you develop the story. So you got to be creative and then don't limit yourself. So cup ni from mana in terms of that. So aku memang most important is actually in the story develop, and then never like I told you right, like the character would talk to you when you writing a lot, right? So let the character talk to you. That is when you go more advanced, like you go more advanced, something like that. Like
When you feel it.
when you feel it, like sometimes a character, let the character decide where she want to do or he wanted to do. When you write a story, you build a skeleton, something like that, and then after a while you let the character talk to you, something like that. Let the character develop. Every character. Sometimes character, kalau you write story, you know the character live in your brain in terms of that, live in your paper, something like that. So after a while, he or she will talk to you. he or she will like say like, I need a bit more line for me. Something like that. So when you have that, and then you start developing, think what she's desire or his desire. Then how does it develop? No, it's not easy for you to develop 110 pages or 80 pages. So a lot of people like, I mean, even for me when I write my film, right? Something like that, my screenplay. I haven't produced, so it started with 5 pages. It's just 5 pages, one line, one line, one line, one line. So I just want to build a story. From 5 pages to 10 pages to 50 pages. Take 5 years to complete 100 pages.
That's for now.
Yes.
10 years to complete.
5 years.
5 years to complete 100
Yeah.
pages.
100 pages.
This is the one yang we
Yeah, I'm coming lah. Working on something like that.
working on together, insyaAllah.
Yeah,
So,
insyaAllah.
do you agree with your punya writing skill ni kadang-kadang boleh those yang nak get into writing ni, dia orang boleh relate it with their own experience juga?
I think definitely. I mean, inspiration can come from anything. And then I think the biggest inspiration is come from yourself. You understand? No? So most of the time, essentially, I'm writing, I would base on what I have seen, what I wanted, desire to tell, or something like that. So it's actually, you have to see yourself. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, my life is not interesting, or something like that. Life in everybody is interesting. You can write those things.
Thank you so much, Muhammad Hisham Saleh, for the inspiring session today. Rasa berbesar hati sangat sebenarnya dapat sit down together with Hisham. Sebenarnya dah, it's been a while lah kita bekerja bersama.
Yes.
Dan
A year lah.
almost a year, yes.
It's a year already.
It's a year already. Dan insyaAllah we work on together more in the future. Dan harap-harapnya these tips and I would say
Bantai.
boleh secara langsung membantu korang yang nak get involved in writing skill ataupun nak enhance korang punya writing teknik. Okay, insyaAllah kita jumpa lagi untuk Borak Bantai next episode. Thank you for now and you guys in the next one.
Yes.
Assalamualaikum.